Episode 577, Getting Past STEM Labels and into Real STEM Learning.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
So today we're talking with Taylor Ryan. He is STEM coordinator at Fulford Academy. And so today we're going to talk about getting past the STEM labels into real STEM learning. So what's up with these labels, Taylor, and why do we have to get past them?
Well, we see the STEM label on toys in the store all the time. And our head of school, Scott Murray, I think he puts it really well. It's puzzle building when we see that. It's like we saw a couple generations ago with these are science toys, these are science kits, but they're preparing you to do or preparing a kid to do one thing with them. The comparison I like to make is it's like when you got a Lego set and the first thing you did with the Lego set is you built what the instructions told you to build, whether it was a spaceship, a house, a castle, whatever it was. After you were finished building that and you took it apart, all the Lego pieces go into your big bin of Lego. And now you can build whatever you want. A lot of the things we see in the store or the resources that are marketed to teachers that say STEM on them, that's the Lego set with the instructions attached. And it's you're there to do one specific thing. And what we want to get our students doing more is that project-based, inquiry-based, collaborative learning where they're able to be creative and critical thinkers and develop those skills instead of just building the puzzle that's put in front of them.
And you're wrestling with this. I mean, you're an English and social sciences teacher, but you're also working with integrating across grade levels and integrating across subjects. Where do you start? We
start at the end. It's backwards planning, like we all are taught to do from the beginning. Last year, we actually had a large-scale STEM project at our school that we developed where we tried to get all of our grade 10 students, and there were only 20 of them. We have small class sizes, so we had 2 grade 10 classes of 10 each. We put them together. We said for a month, they're not going to go to a specific room for a specific subject. They're going to work together on these different projects. They're going to bring in the English curriculum, the science curriculum, the health and phys ed curriculum, and the history curriculum, because we're a semestered school. They were working in those 4 areas. So we had to look at the expectations that we wanted them to meet in each of those subject areas. Then we started to build activities and scenarios. So the conceit of the project was it's the outbreak of World War I. You're on a ship that's going from London to Canada, and your ship is sunk. You're stranded on a desert island. So now we have projects where they have to build a device to be seen by passing ships. So that's an optics unit in science, learning how light behaves. We looked at prohibition, and some fruit on the island had gone bad and fermented, and someone had discovered alcohol, and now they had to debate, is this a good thing for society? For the health and phys ed aspect, we had them learn how to fight infection when you don't have any medication around, and they had to develop a new sport to keep them all from going bananas when they're stranded on this island. So they're using their learning in all these different subject areas to find authentic solutions for problems that are as authentic as we can make them. We found it was really challenging, and one of the most challenging parts was assessment. So that's something we're still working with, but we learned a lot, even if it didn't go the way we hoped it might.
Well, it's a challenging when you start a large scale project like this, just to define things and break them into chunks so that you have, things you can accomplish each day. And it's a learning process, isn't it? The true project-based learning is learning for the kids and the educators.
Absolutely. And it was one of the things we want the students to do, which is learning to take intelligent risks. It's okay to fail. Failure leads to reflection, leads to an improved process and improved product. And that was happening for us as well. And we tried to be as open with the students as we could, that we haven't tried this before. We don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to see. And if it fails, but there's value in trying.
So when you do something like this next time, what will be a few things that you know you're going to change?
I think we're going to need to have a little more instruction for the students at first, which seems counterintuitive because with STEAM or STEM learning, you want the kids to come up with creative solutions on their own. But one issue we found was that if we weren't very specific with the types of solutions we wanted them to develop, they might not come up with something that met any curriculum expectations. So, for example, the activity I mentioned where they needed to create a signaling device using light, we weren't specific about light. We gave them information about optics and light and hoped they would get there on their own. Most groups did, but one group built their own drum.
Okay.
They were just trying to make as much noise as possible, which great. Maybe you got the attention of the ship, but they didn't meet the curriculum expectations they had to meet, which through no fault of their own. Now we have to make sure we hit those expectations again later in the semester so that they're still successful in the course.
Yeah. Well, and even helping them understand the difference between light waves and sound waves, and which is the most efficient way to get somebody. There are just so many different things that you can do there, but there is such a balance. We'd love to think that we can just put kids alone in a room and they would discover everything. But if that's the case, all of our inventions would have been discovered in the first 1,000 years of humanity, which that didn't happen. We need to stand on the shoulders of giants. We need to learn the things that have been learned and then integrate it into our own learning. There is a balance that's there. So, Taylor, as you move forward to integrate STEM, are you looking at smaller projects? Are you still looking at these big, massive type projects, or a little bit of both?
I think we can do both. I think as teachers individually, we need to become more comfortable with introducing that element of risk into our classroom. We've started the year talking a lot about design thinking and iterative processes. We want to get our students reflecting more. And I think that's something we can have in the classroom that will get students better acquainted with the processes we need in STEAM learning and STEM learning without doing those huge projects. That said, I think there's value in the huge projects, and I think it's good for the students and for the teachers. And I don't think a little bit of chaos ever hurt anybody, to be honest.
I've worked with week-long projects where the whole school was immersed, and they've been fantastic. And we did learn a lot. They can be exhausting, but they can be fantastic. I think one thing that I get from what you're saying, Taylor, is that you've really determined what you want students to be, who you want them to be, so that you can create your to-do list. And I think this is real important for us as educators as well as for our students. Who do we want our students to be? And then we design our curriculum with the outcome in mind in terms of how we want kids to think and how we want kids to wrestle with problems and how we want them to work together and collaborate. And it'll be interesting to follow your journey, and good luck, Taylor.
Thanks very much. Thanks again for having me on.
Today's a great day to take this and have conversations about large projects you can do at your school, or smaller projects, or cross-curricular projects. Discuss what real STEM is, and also the topic of the Legos that our guest talked about today, where first people get the Legos and they follow the steps and the instructions, and then they put them in a bin and they actually build something for real. So consider these conversations and figure out how you can bring better STEM to your school that's not just labeled STEM, but is actually science, technology, engineering, hopefully arts, and math.